Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, GM Potter here. Welcome to my channel where I talk about books and bookish things. I upload on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I am an independent author, an avid reader, and a cat mom of 3. And today's video is one that I hesitated to do. That is, I wasn't sure I wanted to talk about this. I wasn't sure I wanted to go over this, and that's because this book deals with statutory things in an unsavory way. It's framed in such a way that it's not, if you know anything about the time period in which the book takes place, it's at best statutory adjacent, at worst it's statutory. I don't want this to come off as bullying to the author. I don't want any hate to the author. As authors, we all do our best to write what we know, to write what we can, to put out good stories, to put out compelling stories. This one was hard for me to read. At about the halfway point, I got to a particular scene and I felt sick. And I just want to put out there that this is going to deal with difficult topics. So if that's not for you, please take care of yourself and click off. You won't hurt my feelings. So let's get into it. Today's book that we're reviewing is The Worst Woman in London by Julia Bennett. Let's start with the book blurb. A defiant Victorian wife fights to escape a bad marriage, but her love for a forbidden man jeopardizes her chance at freedom. James Standish knows how to play society's games. He'll follow the rules, marry a virginal debutante, and inherit a matchless of fortune. At least that's the plan until he meets Francesca Thorne. She's not the sort of woman a respectable gentleman like James could ever marry. Not least because she's, strictly speaking, already married. Francesca is determined to flout convention and divorce her philandering husband when James sweet-talks his way into her life, tasked with convincing to abandon her dream of freedom. She's unprepared for the passion that flares between them. Torn apart by conflicting desires, James and Francesca must choose whether to keep chasing the lives they've always wanted or take a chance on a new forbidden love. I don't know exactly how much research the author did when she was writing this. It certainly feels like there's a lot of research, and other reviews, I couldn't find an interview talk from the author talking about how much research she did on this, but it takes place in Victorian England. Francesca is, at the beginning of the story, she's young, she's having her first season. James Standish proposes to her, and it's a terrible marriage. 10 years later, she wants out. She wants a divorce. Her husband's character, not James Standish, I'm so sorry. Okay, well, Mr. Thorne is the problematic character in this, not Standish is problematic, but I want to talk about Thorne first. This will contain spoilers for the book, but I feel like it has to be talked about. Thorne is refusing to give his wife a divorce. He is just flat out refusing to do this because it would make her happy, because it would jeopardize his social standing, because all of their dirty little secrets will come out. He's been cheating on her all over London while she's been in, I think she's in Staffordshire or Hertfordshire. I don't remember where. I think it's Staffordshire. It doesn't matter. She's been in the countryside, and she takes a lover, and her husband knows about it, and then her lover just abandons her one day. His visit to a neighbor ends, and he's just gone, and that's the end of their flirtation. So he cheats on her and embarrasses her, but she also cheated on him. So I think she should take, yes, she only did it once early in about, I think it's set around the midpoint in their marriage, but she's not alone. Her husband, Thorne, is not alone in the cheating and is portrayed like he is. That doesn't make Thorne a good person. I'm not saying that. At about half, the story takes place 10 years after they get married while she wants to divorce. She's moved out of his country estate. She's not living at his London estate. She has her own house in Cheapside with one servant. She's making her way in the world. At an event where Thorne is there with his mistress, he's flaunting her all over town, and he's at a party with his mistress, and he meets a young debutante, the one that Standish is supposed to marry. The one he knows, his best friend Standish is supposed to marry. He takes her out into the garden, into a secluded area. He exposes her chest. She is presented as being willing and enthusiastic about this. She touches him. It's a very compromising situation. If this had actually happened, she would be, quote unquote, ruined. And he would have to do the noble thing and marry her because she would get no other offers and be penniless, and her family would be in scandal. They're consenting adults, right? Well, no, because the first half of the book, we're talking about this side character, Sylvia Randall, as being very young. It's her first season. These are things in the text that it explicitly says. Like, they're constantly commenting on how young she is and how innocent she is and how unworldly she is, in how it's her first season. For the time period, that would put her somewhere between 15 and 17. The oldest she could possibly be to have a first season would be 18. But that's old enough that one of the characters would have remarked on it, because that is unusual for the time period this book is set in. And the fact that they're drawing attention to the fact that she's so young, so very, very young, puts her age closer to 15, maybe 16. That, by today's standards, would be statutory. This book came out in 2023. It was statutory at the time the book was published. It was statutory at the time the book was written. At the time it takes place, that's a different story. But the author did not have to put this in there. It is not strictly necessary to do it in this way. She could have had them in a passionate embrace and a kiss, and it would have had the same impact on the story. And this happens on page, in detail. That mostly the story is told from James Standish and Francesca Thorne's point of views, but this particular part of the chapter is told from Mr. Thorne's point of view. And it really has no reason to be other than so that we can see this act, this statutory adjacent at best act on the page. Reading this, knowing what I know of the time period, knowing what I know of of essay and statutory things and R and all of these things, being intimately familiar with this, I felt physically violently ill reading this. I had to put the book down. Like, I was not okay reading this, because the beginning of the book does not have, it just jumps in with chapter 1. London, 1872. So the story takes place in London, 1882. So she would have been between 15 and 17, probably closer to 15 or 16. There's no content warning for this, even though it happens on page. It's supposed to be a saucy little fun novel. Like, it's supposed to be a fun novel. She's the worst woman in London. She's getting divorced. I'm going to get to Francesca's story arc first, but I have to talk about Sylvia Randall's, because he makes her no offers. They are discovered. Luckily, they're discovered by Standish and Thorne's mistress, of all people. But her gown is rumpled and grass-stained. Her hair has been taken down out of its pins, and people saw her. She is ruined in society, or she would be if this... Either way, this is awful, and it didn't have to be to this extent. It didn't have to be on page. I don't know what the author was playing at by doing this. Like, I don't know if she thought it would be just a fun, cheeky, well, he's having a romp, so it's okay that the wife is having an affair too, because they're both having affairs, because they're going to get divorced. Like, I think that's what the author was trying to communicate, and it didn't come across that way. It just didn't. Not for me, at least. I think I've harped on that enough. So I'm going to talk about James Standish's character. James Standish is a very wealthy man, and it's high time he be married. Have been single for over 10 years. It is high time they settle down. James Standish is essentially relying on money from his wealthy aunt. He's set to inherit everything his aunt has when she dies, and she's keeping him in fashionable clothing, in a fashionable part of town, all the luxuries that money can buy. He takes up with Francesca, knowing that she's still married, knowing that her divorce has to go to court and be judged by a jury of her peers, and knowing that it doesn't matter how many scandals her husband has had, how many affairs her husband has had, or how flagrant he is about parading these women all through London. What matters is her indiscretions in this in the divorce proceedings. And he pursues her anyway. She is content to just have longing for him, and he pushes it. He kisses her first. He takes things further first. He has relations with her on page and then leaves. And she's like, okay, it's a one-time thing. I can put it behind me. I have to remain some level of respectable to win my divorce proceedings. He comes back the next day after telling his aunt that she's just a dalliance, that he has no feelings for her, he certainly doesn't love her, he doesn't care about her. All of these things he says to his aunt, who is a known gossip, who likes to stir the pot and create opportunities for scandal to arise. At the ball, where Mr. Thorne took advantage of Sylvia Randall, she also invited Francesca and Thorne's mistress because she wanted a scandal to break out at the party. This is what she does. This is her entertainment. And he tells this to her knowing she's like that, knowing she's going to make sure it goes all over town and ruins any chance she has of having a fair trial. He says this to her. Knowing that he knows his aunt is like this is irredeemable to me because he knows he's courting disaster for this woman he purportedly loves. He at least thinks he might at this point in the story. And after laying all these horrible things about Francesca out to his aunt, who will spread them all around town, he then goes to Francesca's house, unannounced, insists on waiting for her, and immediately takes her up to bed, even after she says, no, we can't do this. He persuades her. She says yes, but a no then a yes is really a no, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinion. The men in this book are sickening. Truly sickening, at least to me. This is, obviously, it's a 1-star book from me. All in all, I found this book to be at best cynical. There's a quote in the book that goes, no one is truly free. We're all trapped in prisons of our own making. And thinking about that quote, after having read this book and how awful these characters are to each other, to themselves, to the world at large, I can't help but think that the author is writing from experience there. That there's something going on with this author, because this truly is, it is not the book for me. And maybe I just don't understand what she was going for. Like, maybe it was supposed to be romantic, but Thorne's character is at least 10 years older than Sylvia Randall, probably closer to 12 or 15 years older than her. She is incredibly young. And yes, she was enthusiastically consenting, but from the perspective of when this was written, she had no way to consent. It's a no from me. Have you read The Worst Woman in London? What did you think of it? Is this one that you're going to read out of curiosity? What other books did you read that are seemingly generally well received? Like, this one has a 3.62 on Goodreads. Storygraph isn't loading for me right now. I don't know. I think they're doing system maintenance. But it's got a decent score on Goodreads, and I don't understand. This is traditional. This is a traditionally published book, meaning this made it past develop editors and line editors and copy editors and probably an agent, and lots of people touched this book to get it into print. And there are multiple editions of this book. And as far as I can tell, all of these people signed off on that scene. So to me, all of these people are culpable for putting that scene into the world. Are there any books that you read that made you wonder how it is that so many people could have touched this book and read this book and it still made it to print? I would very much like to avoid those books if at all possible. So that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please take care of yourselves and guard your mental space. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.